In this video, we're going to be looking at some present value and future value calculations. Pause the video and read this example, and we'll continue from there. It says, you anticipate buying a house in 5 years and estimate you need to have $20,000 saved at the end of 5 years for a down payment. The interest rate is 5%. How much money do you have to save now to have $20,000 as a down payment for your house? Whenever you read time value questions, you always have to determine, are they asking for a value in the present, which is now, a value in the future, sometime in future, or a amount of a payment? So in this example, the question is, how much money would you have to save now? If it's a now question, we're looking for a present value. So it says, is the question asked for a sum of money now or a sum of money in the future? The answer here is now. If the answer is now, we're going to use present value calculations. The next question, is the amount involved a lump sum or an annuity? A lump sum is a single sum, and an annuity is a series of equal amounts of money. So in this question, are we going to put in one lump sum of money at a point in time, or are we going to put in a series of equal payments so that we have $20,000 at the end of 5 years? If you read the question, we're not going to put in money every year. We're just going to put in one payment now, one lump sum now, and that's going to accumulate interest so that we have $20,000 at the end of 5 years. So the answer to this question is the amount a lump sum or an annuity? It's going to be a lump sum. The other questions that need answering are, what is the principal amount? So the principal amount is the amount of money that you need to have. In this case, it's $20,000. It's always given in the question. It's $20,000. So $20,000 is the lump sum. I'd say always, it's not always. If we have to calculate a payment, sometimes they don't give it. So just, read the question. But in this case, it's clearly the principal amount that we need to have at the end of the period is $20,000. The next is interest rate. So what is the interest rate? They tell you that the interest rate is 5%, but we also have to look at the number of periods when we determine the interest rate. So ideally, this should have said number of periods first and then interest rate. So I'm going to delete that here. Okay, so let's first look at number of periods. What is the time period we are looking at? We're looking at 5 years. So we know that our number of periods is 5. But are we getting interest annually, or are we getting interest quarterly, semi-annually? In this example, they don't say, they just say interest rate is 5%. So we assume that is an annual interest rate and that they're accumulating interest annually. They're compounding interest annually. So then number of periods is 5. Interest rate, therefore, is also 5. And later on, I'll do an example where the interest rate is compounded more frequently than annually. Now we have all the information we need to calculate the amount of down payment on the house. So let's calculate the present value. Present value, when you're using Excel, start with the equal sign and then type PV. PV is present value. You have to open parentheses, and then it tells you at the bottom what you need to kind of guides you what order that you need to put things in. So you don't really need to memorize it. It tells you what order you need to type things in. The first one is rate. So what's our interest rate? We've determined our interest rate is 5%. So I'm going to put 5%. then you type in a comma. The next is N per. N per stands for number of periods. So what's our number of periods? In this example, it's 5. So I'm going to put 5. Next, payment. Well, in this example, we're not making any regular payments. There's no equal payments that we're inputting. We're putting a lump sum in the beginning and then just letting it grow. So for this, I'm going to put 0. Next, future value. So the future value we know at the end of this 5 years is going to be 20,000. So that would be the future value, 20,000. And then the type, again, you can ignore type. Type is usually used whenever you are putting in or looking at a annuity, and if it's an annuity due or an ordinary annuity. An ordinary annuity is where payments are made at the end of the year. An annuity due is where payments are made at the beginning of the period. So that, again, type only applies to an annuity question. So at this point, either you can put a 0 and close parentheses, or you can just close your parentheses because you're done with all the terms that you need. And that tells you that your present value is 15,670 and 52 cents. You can ignore that it's a negative number, but what this means is that you need to have $15,670.52 invested now in order to have 20,000 at the end of 5 years. That's it for this example. Please let me know if you have any questions.